Hello, good afternoon, good evening on this Tuesday evening. What is it? June 11, 2024. Welcome to Getting Clear with Tim Jones, formerly Ask Pastor Tim. I am Tim Jones. I am your purpose advocate, your spiritual advisor, and your kingdom ambassador. We come on these Tuesday nights. We've been doing every other Tuesday. We will start doing every week here soon. I'm just trying to get some things in order so that we can do that. But we come on here to present topics of importance in a way that reflects, our who we are, our nature, our heart, our concern, certainly, and our wisdom, our knowledge, our understanding. I say our wisdom, knowledge, and understanding. I don't have any, right? I'm always seeking the wisdom, knowledge, and understanding that comes from above, that comes from heaven. God is the author, the giver of wisdom and knowledge and understanding. Everything that He has done, including creating all of heaven and earth, was done with wisdom, knowledge, and understanding. And so we seek to do that and present the topics that we present from that perspective. I want to welcome you and invite you at the same time to follow me, Getting Clear with Tim Jones, on YouTube, on Facebook, and on Instagram. On TikTok as well, Getting Clear with Tim Jones. Follow some of the things that we're talking about. We just wrapped up our 100 days of mental wealth. We invite you to go and subscribe to Getting Clear with Tim Jones on YouTube and look for 100 Days of Mental Wealth, and just go and feed off of it, man. Let it feed you. There are a few things that I'm going to be talking about a lot because in this season, I'm aimed at something. One of the things that I'm aimed at, my life is about purpose. I have been challenged and tasked with and assigned to carry the message of purpose in this hour. And so I talk, everything I do is going to be centered around purpose. And every topic is going to always find its way back to purpose. That's one of the topics. The second one would be original design or original intent. I'm assigned to carry the message of original design. Every person, not only is it impossible to be born without purpose, nothing can exist without purpose. It also is impossible to be born without an original intent or original design on your life for the intent that you have. Everyone is carrying something. Everyone has an assignment in the earth. Everyone don't know what it is, and everyone won't fulfill it because they don't know what it is. But doesn't change the fact that everyone has an assignment. And so original design is a message, one of the messages that I carry as well. The other one is emerging leaders. Since 2020, the Lord began to speak to me about emerging leaders as we were going through that time and that season, and we were experiencing a lot of things and a lot of loss, and we lost a lot of people. We lost a lot of generals, a lot of people who were in key places and key positions in the earth, people who were holding down certain systems, if you will, and we lost them. Well, the Lord began to say to me, those pillars, those posts are vacant. And He is calling the emerging leaders, that is, those who will come and assume those positions of influence in the earth. It's time for them to rise up, those that have been specifically called to do it in certain areas. And so the emerging leaders I've been assigned to and aimed at in this season. And finally, the fourth topic that will always find its way into our conversation is mental wealth. And mental wealth represents our ability to frame our futures and shape our destiny with what we say to and about ourselves, first and foremost, and then how you utilize and use words to create. Words have creative ability. And so we talk about mental wealth. And so those four topics will always, you'll always find that we are in one way, shape, form, or fashion centered around those things in all of our topics. And so tonight will be no different. Um, Before I get into the topic of tonight, I'm going to share a piece with you. I've got one of my friends who happens to be one of my students as well, joining me tonight. He's going to be talking about the process that they're in, and how we have been able to help them to uncover and discover and elevate in this hour, elevate their lives and build what we call a system of resilience in their lives that will allow them to be able to not just navigate and not just go through, but to grow through everything that they have to face and deal with in these next coming years, 5, 10, 15, 20 years. We know that there will be things that will shift and that will happen and that will change, that will literally impact every human being. And so we have to be able to navigate those changes in a way that we're still able to be effective in the earth. And so that's some of the stuff that we talk about. As we begin to get into the topic for tonight, I want to share this poem with you that I wrote back in, I think it was 2004, 2005, somewhere around there. When I was working with troubled teenagers, and we had an event that was centered around helping us to learn how to help those who are hurting and who are wanting to be healed. And so I wrote this particular piece as I found myself in a place where I felt like I could relate to someone being hurt because I had been hurt. And I started pulling from my own hurt and found myself writing this particular piece. I want to go ahead and put this disclaimer out there, or put this warning, if you will. It does talk about suicide. So if that's a trigger for you to hear that word, I'm letting you know up front that I will be using that terminology. I won't use that word itself, but I will be talking about some things that allude to that in this particular piece very briefly. So with that, I want to go ahead and share this piece with you. It is called, Can You, Will You Help Me Heal? And it goes like this. After this, I'm going to bring a guest on tonight, and we're going to get into the topic. But can you, will you help me heal? There are so many things that go on inside my heart, my head, I try to hide. But the pain, the rejection, the misery, and defeat, they all seem to define me. I try to get better, do better, and be better, but instead, I find myself becoming more of a hater. The very people I want to love are the same ones I need to hate. This is my drug, you see. It's the way I medicate. I wish I could snap my finger and make it all go away, but my bitterness has a root, and that's where you'll find all the decay. When people try to help me, they don't understand my behavior. They think I should just be ready and willing to receive the one they call Savior. But you see, I've been deeply wounded by those who should have deeply loved me. And now what I think about love is really not very healthy. Every time I decide to take a stand and start to believe again, here comes another man with outstretched arms and open hands, seducing me into another whirlwind and then snapping me in two like an overused rubber band. When will this cycle end? Will I have to end it myself, the way I know how? Should I take a gun and blow my brains out? Maybe I should hang like a puppet from a string. After all, I do feel my life has no meaning. This is the weight that I carry every day, wanting to be healed, but unable to find a way. And now here you are, another man with outstretched arms and open hands. You don't even have a clue to what I've gone through. Don't you realize I'll only become a burden to you too? Yeah, I know. You say you're ready for this task, But I have one question to ask. Can you, will you help me heal? That piece is still powerful to me. After all these years, every time I do it, every time I see it, every time I read it, every time I perform it, it just has such an impact on me. And I'm going to bring my friend on. This is Sarah, who is one of my students, been through one of my coaching programs. In fact, she's in my coaching program right now, and has had an opportunity to work on the topic that we're going to be talking about tonight, which is the signature greatness conversation. The signature greatness conversation is it's what we use to get back to our strength quickly. It's how we bounce back from difficulty. Okay, it's the how you train your thoughts, how you train your brain to respond in difficult moments. See, one of the things that we just don't really apply a lot of thought to is pathology, how we got to or how we get to certain places. There's no behavior that doesn't have a pathology. There are no thoughts that don't have pathology. There was something that happened. There's something that was said. There's some activity or events that have happened and built up in succession that brought us to wherever we are, brought us to whatever decision it is, brought us to whatever emotion it is that we're expressing. And so we don't give enough attention to pathology, in terms of diagnosing ourselves, if you will. But pathology is huge. And so we found that we have the ability to shape and to frame with our language. It's a very powerful thing that we have that many, if not most of us, really don't utilize that power. And so the signature greatness conversation is one of the tools that we use to help people to realize and step into that kind of power. So Sarah, why don't you greet everyone and then just kind of talk a little bit about, what this process has done for you.
Hello, everyone. Thank you, Pastor Tim, for having me on your show. It is such an honor to be here. I thank you for your program. It's definitely changed my life, and I'm looking forward to sharing.
Awesome. 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 Um, let's see, today this is June. We're halfway the year, right? And most people start the year out with some form of resolution, or intent to do things different or to do things better or to stop doing something, start doing other things. Everyone starts out that way, right? And the majority of people, a lot of people, they start with a bang, and then, March and April and May and the summer hits, and it gets hot, and, and if you don't have a full head of steam going, and if you have not already established some different patterns, okay, you begin to fall back into the same practices that you had before. And that's all of that is because of pathology, right? Everything has, our practices represent what we're doing, but our practices have a pattern, and those patterns have principles. They're rooted in principles. And if you're going to change anything, you got to really get to and deal with whatever principle that our patterns are rooted in. And so one of the things that the coaching process that we use in this Getting Clear coaching is we utilize poetry to help to get to those places. One of the things about speaking, one of the greatest fears of man is public speaking. Did you know that?
Yeah.
That's like one of the greatest fears. Like, some people would rather die than have to speak in front of people, And so it's like, why? It's just, you just open your mouth and talk. You talk to people all the time, but it's this big monster. Wow. I believe that the enemy uses that to shut us down and to silence our voices. and to keep us from stepping into our power. Because when you can begin to speak and declare and proclaim, you're stepping into a power. Why is it a power? Because God gave us that ability to create with our mouths, with our tongues, with our language. Why? Because that's his ability. He does that, right? He spoke the world into existence. And so it's a very powerful thing we have. And that's why it's so crazy to me that it's like one of the greatest fears of man, you know. So as you have, you went through the coaching, you actually went through our boot camp, our Get Clear boot camp, and then moved into the coaching, the developing and designing and crafting the signature greatness conversation from that place. Talk a little bit about what coming out of the boot camp and going into that, what that felt like, what did that do for you? What kind of what did that how did that resonate with you?
Well, the boot camp was more so like getting me to understand the value of who I am and my purpose and my assignment in the earth. And after that, when I started doing the coaching program, it was like taking some of those things that we learned and even some of those principles that we learned and putting them into action on a daily basis.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Okay. Very good. Well, you're a teacher, right? And what grades do you teach?
I've taught grades from K through 5 and 8th grade.
Okay. So where it concerns community, let me tell you two things: identity and communication. Where it concerns those two things, tell me what kinds of things you see with your students or with your kids. Is there a deficit there? Is there a correlation between their ability to communicate and who they really believe or feel or think that they are? Is there a correlation between their identity and their ability to communicate?
Are you saying their ability to communicate who they are?
Yes.
Okay.
Who they are, what they want, you know.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Um, our kids today, they are searching for their identity, and they're searching in many places. They're searching in social media. They're searching through the TV. They're searching through their peers. They're searching in so many places to figure out who they are. And they when they communicate about who they are, sometimes they're communicating about who other people have convinced them that they should be, and they're trying to show up as that person. And so they don't know where to go to find out who they are, to be able to effectively explain to someone else who they are. And ultimately, they need to go to the creator. But when they are going to other people and they are looking at other things to find out who they are and to be defined, then they get a false sense of identity. And when you have a false sense of identity, that's not something that you can root yourself in, and you can be secure in. So there's going to be a lot of insecurity. And the moment that identity is challenged, or you find out that maybe this is not who I am because this person over here said this, or if this is showing me who I should be, the moment that's challenged, then they're crumbling, and that leads also to mental health issues. And so, yes, there definitely is a correlation between being knowing who they are and being able to communicate, to others who they are and what their purpose and assignment is in earth. And of course, their children, and so they still learning, it's just that the process by which they're doing it is very detrimental to them, and is detrimental also to their mental health.
How does that impact their schoolwork, their ability to learn?
Well, it It's going to have them in a state where they're just all over the place mentally. So you can be trying to teach them something, but their focus is not there. There's not, it may not be on the lesson. It may be on everything that is going on around them, the things that they're seeing, they're hearing, and through the social media, through TV, even, things that they may be hearing from parents at home, from peers. And they're focused on that because those are the things that are impacting them on a daily basis. And those are the things that challenge their identity, at a time where they're still trying to figure that out. And so just not even being able to have some sense of identity is going to cause them to have a lack of focus, not just in the classroom, but it's going to translate over into their lives, even as they go and become, adults. Not knowing who they are is going to always have them at a place where they're searching and they're all over the place, and so much time can be wasted. So it's important that, you know we set up structures and we set up systems and programs that help kids to identify who they are, what their gifts are, and what their assignment is, and what they're supposed to be doing in the earth. And when we can start that at a young age, we're going to have more stable and more effective and resilient and influential adults in the world that are bringing the solutions that our world needs.
Hmm. Do you? And so you said all of that, right? And I'm thinking one word in my head, right? Confidence.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Confidence. Because it's one thing for a kid to be distracted. Let's see, probably around the early 2000s, somewhere in that area. You can correct me if I'm off a little bit, but that's when I began to become aware of how prevalent the ADHD label was, and how it was being used to just really label a lot of kids, right, who were disinterested. Okay, they were disinterested. So it someone can be disinterested for many reasons.
Mm-hmm.
They could be disinterested because it's boring, right? They could be disinterested because they lack confidence in themselves, right? Because that's what I've seen a lot of kids. I know the ones that I work with, they pretended to not be interested. They weren't disinterested. They were pretending to not be interested because they had no confidence in their ability to comprehend and do what it was that we were putting before them. So they pretended to not be interested.
Mm-hmm.
And the way I found that out was I started giving them things that they could do and relating it to what I was asking them to do.
Mm.
And when I discovered, or rather, when they discovered that their ability to do the thing that they could do would actually help them to be successful in doing the thing that I was asking them to do, all of a sudden the interest was there.
Mm-hmm.
Because it was there all along.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. If they were not disinterested, they were just lacking in confidence in their own ability. So can you talk a little bit about that in terms of the performance that you're seeing from kids in school?
Yeah, there's definitely a lack of confidence, and I could definitely see that a kid disengaging in something, not because they're not interested in learning it, but because they don't have the confidence to do it. And so then the question becomes, how do we build that confidence into our kids? Because they're not going to always get that from home. And so school may be one of the major places where they get that confidence. And I believe in order to be able to get that confidence, you have to be able to identify your strengths, to know what you're good at. And
Yeah.
some kids don't even feel like they're good at anything. And so they may need your help to identify those strengths. And so it may be you, the teacher, that may say to them, okay, these are your strengths. These are things that you are good at, and
Mm-hmm.
teach them from a place of their strengths, and because your strengths, they give clues to your identity, and that, even just doing that, is helping kids to begin to formulate their identity, how they are to show up in the earth, what they have to give to the earth,
Mm-hmm.
to the world, to offer. So yeah, so definitely, if we can just begin to identify our students' strengths and pull from those strengths, will be a great thing. And then just offering curriculum that is relevant to
Mm.
them.
Yeah. Yeah.
These kids are many kids want to be entrepreneurs, and that's what they are encouraged to do and encouraged to be. Many kids don't want to go build for someone else; they want to go build for themselves.
Mm-hmm.
And so we need to offer curriculum that educates them
Yeah.
about that. Offer curriculum that educates them about real life skills that they need to be successful in the world, because the kids know that, teaching me trigonometry, unless I want to, or geometry and things like that, unless I
Yeah.
want to go into certain careers, like maybe saying being a architecture, like I'm not really going to use this on a
Yeah.
daily basis. And so
Yeah.
they know that. And so they're like, you want me to sit here and spend time learning this and be engaged when I'm not going to use it? How is it relevant to me?
Yeah.
So curriculum and education has to be relevant for the students. They have to see how it can empower them to be successful, because they want to be successful, and we all have that innate desire to be successful.
Yeah. Yeah. That's good. That's good. Okay, I can keep talking about kids because it's such a huge thing, and because our kids are being targeted, in terms of their identity and their ability to discover who they are. They're actually being proselyted, if you will, um, as we speak. That's happening in our world. So I don't want to, because I'll be talking about that for a while, but I want to shift just a little bit from the kids to. I'm going to share this story, and then you'll see why I said it, and I ask you to respond to it. But when I was working with the teenagers at this facility that I was working at, one of the things that I did was we had a creative writing class. Okay, and that was what I used, the creative writing to help them to begin to um, use poetry or use writing to express who they were in their own way. I'd give them a format that they could just be themselves in. They didn't have to hold back. Whatever they wanted to say, they could say. Whatever it was, how vulgar it was, or whatever, they could just say it. I just gave them some parameters, but gave them freedom within those parameters. And so they eventually began to do that. And as they began to do that, began to open up more, right? So we found that creative writing, because I had this thing I would say to them all the time: when you write, you're always right, right? Because the paper doesn't refuse or rebuttal what you say. So anything you write down, you're right. Okay. And so we worked off of that theme, and it was therapeutic. But I was doing this because one of the things that I would teach them is how to stand up, right, and proclaim and declare what they had wrote, right? I was basically teaching them public speaking without telling them that's what I was doing, right? But I had them to write their pieces, and then they had to present their piece. Nobody else can present your piece like you. You got to present it. And so we were working on those kinds of things, and I'd give them pieces that I wanted them to say, so that they would be saying certain things about themselves that I knew they wouldn't say about themselves. Okay. And so we were doing that particular exercise. And there was a gentleman that came in into the room. He was one of the volunteers. He was an older gentleman, he probably was in his early 50s at that time. And he would come and volunteer his time to help tutor the kids. And so he showed up this day a little early. And so he came and sat in the back of my class. And I was doing my thing with one of the teenagers, and as I as I backed up and I turned around and I saw him and I was like, hey, and I spoke to him. I was like, I didn't know you were here, right? And I looked at him and he had tears in his eyes, and it just kind of stopped me. I was like, you okay? What's going on? And he said to me, no one ever said that to me. What I was saying to the young person in that piece. He said, nobody ever said that to me. Now here's a man, 50 years old, very successful. He owned a construction company. And the reason he could come and volunteer in the middle of the day, because other people were running this business for him, right? I mean, he was a very successful man. But he said, nobody ever said that to me, with tears in his eyes. A 50-year-old man, right? And so what we're talking about really doesn't have any age limitations on it. Because when you think about it, we are eternal beings living, okay, in a finite existence here on earth. Okay. We didn't start here and we won't end here. Okay. Just our time here will end, but we won't end. So we're eternal beings, right? So when you think about it, age has nothing to do with it. You can be 100 years old, and if nobody ever told you that they loved you, and somebody told you at 100 that they loved you, and it was genuine, and you felt it, guess what? It has the same impact as it does when you're 10 years old, and nobody ever told you that they love you, and then they finally do. Same impact. Okay. Can you talk about that in terms of how this has, what we're doing with the Signature Greatness Conversation has transformed your thinking, and how you feel that it can and should be helping people who are older as well?
Well, I've known for years what my purpose and assignment is in the earth. And so many times will be like, I should be so much further along and for having fulfilled my purpose and my assignment, or in doing that. But I'm not where I want to be. And when I examine of the why am I not where I want it to be, is because in those times of challenges, in those times of difficulties, in those times where I made major life decisions, in those times where you just face those difficulties in life, and just going through life in general, I got distracted. And because I got distracted, there was delay. And then there's also, you could know your assignment, but not fully know who you are and how you're supposed to show up in the earth. And when you don't know fully who you are, how you're supposed to show up in the earth, you're going to make certain decisions that's going to take you away from being who God created you to be. And so having the Signature Greatness Conversation, what it does and what it did for me after I wrote it, and it really came to me who I am. I knew it, but I really just got who I am, what I'm supposed to do, what my assignment is, and how I'm supposed to show up in the earth. It helped me to really understand that. And it helped me to understand what can the enemy use or do to constantly keep me from showing up that way, and how do I need to pivot, And so in that Signature Greatness Conversation, some of the things that I say to myself are things that are going to help me to pivot, to be resilient. So when the challenges come, when the difficulties of life come, and even when successes, come, I always have something to pivot back on that says, this is who I am. This is my assignment. This is what I was called to do. And despite what's going on, I am still going to show up and I am still going to be that in every season of my life, in
Mm.
adversity and triumph. That's who I'm going to show up and be. And since I've been working on my signature greatness conversation, like I am so much stronger. I'm so much more resilient. Like right now, like I'm going through like some major challenges, but in the midst of the challenges, I'm going even harder
Mhm.
after fulfilling my purpose and my assignment. And I'm doing it every day in everything that I do because your purpose and your assignment, you're already even doing that thing before you may even know what it is. You
Mhm.
know, because it's
Mhm.
how God, it's in you, it's how God created you, it's your original design.
Mhm.
And so and everything that I do every day, I'm being who God designed me to be. I'm functioning in the way that He designed me to function, in the capacity in which He designed me to function. And I carry it over to like everything that I do, whether it's at work, whether it's with my family, whether it's in the church, whether it's in the community. And so I'm always fulfilling my purpose and my assignment. But there are things that the Lord has told me to do, and things that He's told me to start, that I'm doing now, that I'm starting now in the midst of adversity.
Mhm.
And instead of the adversity causing me to shut down and go into a place of depression and even allowing weariness to come up on me, my purpose and my assignment, it fuels me because
Mhm.
I understand that the situation and the circumstances are temporary, but my purpose is eternal. You
Mhm.
know, who I am is eternal. And so I constantly am pursuing after that, even in the midst of what I'm going through. So it's just made me stronger. It's made me better, and it's made me wiser. And I'm like truly thankful for it. And sometimes people think that like things like your program, it's not needed, but it is needed because sometimes what we may think, okay, fulfill your purpose, fulfill your assignment. Everybody's talking about that. Pastors talk about it. We think it's so common. We think what is common is the things that are common, they're really uncommon if we don't like take them and we don't do it. And
Mhm.
sometimes we think we can do it on our own. And sometimes you need that mentor and you need that coach to help you to in that process of doing. You need that coach and that mentor to help you to become and to do what God has called you to be in the earth, because we can't do this alone and we need help. Even me, I have a friend that that I can call, that will listen to me, that will pray for me. And when she prays for me, like she don't just like she pray, she go in hard
Mhm.
for me, and I do the
Mhm.
same thing for her. And she knows my purpose and she knows my assignment, and she pushes me into that purpose, she pushes me into that assignment, and she calls me by my identity and who I am and how I'm called to show up in the earth. And I do the same for her.
Mhm.
So we can't do this on our own. And you know and I think of that scripture. It says, like, unless you be like these little children, you can't inherit the kingdom of God.
Yeah.
And we're supposed to be vessels in which God can use to bring kingdom onto earth. It says, "Thy will be done, thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven."
Mhm.
So it is He uses us to get His will done in the earth. He doesn't do anything unless He used men, because He gave men dominion. But that men, Adam and Eve, they superseded their dominion over to Satan when they sinned in the garden. But Jesus Christ came and He died for our sins. So
Mhm.
and so now, and through Him, we have dominion again. And so it's important that we walk in our authority and our dominion, and we allow God to bring through us His will on the earth, and to take territory, for the kingdom of God. And when I wake up every morning, that is my goal. I want to build the kingdom of God by bringing solutions that He has placed inside of me, giving those solutions to mankind so it can better mankind, because God is a God to bring healing, salvation, restoration. And how does he do it? He does it through us. We are his hands and we are his feet. And so I want to wake up every morning. I want to be his hands and feet and do my part, because we all have to reveal a dimension of who God is in the earth. I want to make sure that I'm doing my part, because when it's all said and done, I want him to look at me and say, well done, my
Yeah,
good and faithful servant.
yeah, yeah. I was thinking about my favorite movie of all times, right? The Matrix, right? The Matrix series, right? In the second Matrix, there was they started introducing all of these new characters that we hadn't seen before, and one of them was the Keymaker. Okay, Keymaker had been locked up had been captured by one of the programs and locked up in a room for I don't even know how long he had been in there. But in that room that he was locked up in, it was a room full of keys, right? He was in there practicing and honing his key making skills while he was locked up. Okay. he, he was
Wow.
preparing for the moment that he was created for, right? And that impacted me so much. I love the Keymaker and just how he shows up in there. But I'm looking for and I'm trying to help develop and train Keymakers who will know what their assignment is and will spend their lives working to prepare and to craft and to hone and to perfect, so that when the moment comes, they can step into it boldly and actualize who they are in that moment, right? Because that's the scripture says this in Romans 8:19, I think it is, somewhere there. Yeah, somewhere close. All of creation, all of the creature, all of creation, right, is yearning for, moaning, yearning for, waiting for the manifestation of the sons of God.
Yeah.
In other words, everything that exists is waiting for us to step boldly into the places that we've been called to be in and be who we made to be and do what we've been. All of creation is waiting for that. So certainly everyone in your life is waiting for you to manifest, right? And become what you were designed to be, not to manifest some craziness. No, to manifest as the daughter of God, as the son of God, as the child of God that we've been created to be. And so I love the Keymaker, man. I'm looking for Keymakers. I'm looking for those who have a sense within them that there is something. They may not even know exactly what it is, but they have a sense that there's something in them that they're supposed to do better or bigger or something deeper or something. And just have that sense, right? That's all it takes is that sense. Because then when you meet the right person, that person will speak to that sense.
Yes.
And then you come alive. You go, okay, now that's what I'm talking about. That's what I've been looking for. So I say things like I'm looking for those who are looking for me, because I know they're looking for what I'm carrying, for what the word that I'm carrying, the message that I'm carrying, right? And so that's what we're looking for. And it doesn't matter how old you are, right? There's a particular age group that I was aimed at because there's a particular assignment that I have for that age group. But it doesn't matter how old you are. What matters is, I say it this way. If you found out that you only had 6 months left to live, and you were pretty clear that what you did in those 6 months was going to determine your entry into heaven or hell, what would you spend those 6 months doing? Right? It's like, how would you spend those 6 months if what you did was going to determine whether you went to heaven or hell? And I feel like we should live that way. We should live as if we only got 6 months left to live, in terms of what you put your energy into it, in terms of what you put your time into. We should be like the Keymaker, even if we are in situations where that are not favorable. I don't like my job. I don't like my church. I don't like my school. I don't like my whatever. It doesn't matter. It doesn't keep you from continuing to prepare and to hone your skill and develop your craft. And it doesn't keep you from doing it. In fact, it gives you a greater motivation to do it.
Wow. Pastor Tim, that's exactly like what has happened uh, to me, like through your coaching and your mentoring, is that in every situation and circumstance, I literally intentionally on purpose think of think of how can I use this situation to
Mm-hmm.
perfect what the Lord has placed in the side of me, so
Mm-hmm.
that when it comes time for me to deliver, I'm ready to deliver. So I allow every situation to build me. And I didn't do that before. And it's just been phenomenal of how it's changing my life, but and impacting me, but how it's also changing and impacting people that are connected to me.
Mm-hmm.
And that's also too what happened to me when you talked about, like, having that sense and that knowing that I was created for more. Like, yeah, I have that sense, I have that knowing that was created for more. But when you don't have someone who can speak to that sense, it's
Mm-hmm.
harder. And let me say this: many of us have people who speak to that sense, because there's many people out there talking about purpose. But it's one thing to watch a video of someone giving a message, or to be at a church or at a conference and someone speaking to you, than to have someone that can actually come alongside you and coach you and mentor you in
Mm-hmm.
that process of becoming.
Mm-hmm.
um, so that when you have someone that can do that, it is so powerful and it's so effective and it's so needed. And I just remember times of knowing that there was something more in me, but not having anyone to mentor me. And I would
Mm-hmm.
see others having that coaching and that mentoring, and I'd be like, God, why are you not sending nobody to me? Like, why it's like I'm alone. And he
Yeah.
had me be alone for a season. There was a reason for it, but then he brought you into my life. And I feel like, that through your program, you are that mentor, you are that coach, you are that purpose advocate that you mentioned at the beginning.
Mm-hmm.
um and you are that spiritual advisor, to me. And I've just been like tremendously blessed in the wealth of wisdom that comes from your heart through your mouthpiece, that reaches my heart, that reaches my mind. Is just so powerful that there are times like I'm trying to write down everything that you're saying. So that I can go back and I can reflect on it, because it's so powerful, because it
Mm-hmm.
does speak to what God has placed in the inside of me, and it strengthens me and encourages me. And not only that, it's so much wisdom in what you say. And you mentioned before, earlier, you said that the wisdom doesn't come from you, it comes from God. And I know that that wisdom comes from God, because you will be giving me wisdom for situations that I'm going through, that I hadn't at that moment, up to that point, had even talked to you about.
Mm-hmm.
But the wisdom that you're giving is directly applicable to that situation that I'm going through. And so I know that that is the Lord at that moment, at that time, speaking to you and giving me wisdom. And, you operate in that gift of the prophetic. And the prophetic is such a needed gift, because it strengthens, it encourages, and it builds. And it's those prophetic words and that we get at a timely moments that strengthens us to keep pushing and keep going. But the biggest thing that we're dealing with in our society right now is purity, in the prophetic, because you can have the prophetic gift and not use it with purity. But I
Sure.
just love how the Lord, he always, through you, give me so much wisdom. And I'm just totally grateful, because it did make me come alive. What the enemy was attacking, and what the enemy was trying to bring death to, and what at times seemed like it was just going to die. When I did your program, it just brought it to it just caused me to come alive, and I'm so grateful to God
mm,
for that in your
mm.
program.
I remember, and thank you for saying that. I remember being that person who I had so much stuff on the inside, but I didn't have any language for it at all. No language for it. And nobody I knew or nobody I had met until that point had no language for it. And so that meant I didn't talk to a lot of people because didn't feel like they were saying anything. I didn't feel like they were saying anything, you know.
Mm-hmm.
And I never really been how do you say, a small talk person. I'm not a small talk person. I can make small talk, but it won't be much and it won't be long. You know, I'm a big talk person, and so I remember being that person. And then when I met when I first met Dr. Miles Monroe, you know, and this man is the late great Dr. Miles Monroe.
Mm-hmm.
This man began to say things that brought things alive in me, that the things that I didn't have any language for, he began to give them language, right? And when he began to give them language, now I could talk about them, I could express them, I could write them, right? I now could, he opened up a communication door for me that I could begin to communicate a part of myself that I've always known was there. I just didn't know what it was or what it was for, and didn't have any words for it. He began to do that, give me words for it.
Mm-hmm.
And so I know what that's like. I know what that's like. So I can tell somebody what they're going to experience before they experience it, because I know what it's like, you know. And because now I understand what it is I'm carrying, then I do that intentionally.
Mm-hmm.
And that is coming into alignment, into perfect alignment with your original design. Doing what you came here to do, regardless what your circumstance, what your situation, regardless of what your status in life is. No, you being, simply being, right?
Mm-hmm.
If you're breathing, you should be being.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, and that leads to doing and having. And so that's how I began to shape my life. And so I'm always looking to do that for people. The program Sarah's talking about, our Getting Clear coaching program, you know, you can find that program on Get Clear Institute. It's our online school. You'll find that program, find some other courses there. I invite you to go and check it out. Get Clear Institute. We've got some free resources there. I'm going to be loading some other things. We've got some memberships there you can take part of. But go check it out, man, and begin to just begin to partake into some of the stuff that we're doing and some of the things that we're saying. I promise you, um, if you have a need that we're talking about, there'll be something there for you. There'll be something that you can take. There'll be something that you can grab hold of that will begin to speak to you. Um, Everybody, you know, I can say this is for everybody, but it ain't for everybody because everybody's not ready. But some of you are ready. Some of you have been waiting. Some of you have been praying. Some of you have been fasting, even. Some of you have been waiting for a moment that someone would speak life into the deepest parts of you. And you know, you have to be able to recognize when that happens. You have to be able to recognize those people. You know, mentors don't go looking for mentees. They just don't, right? Mentees show up. They're looking for mentors. Why? Because this thing used to say a lot when the student is ready, the teacher appears, right? So, you know, you've got to be a ready student, you know, and have a sense that I may not know exactly what I'm looking for, but when I see it, I'll know that it's there. You know, the scripture says that about Jesus. We don't know what he looks like, but when we see him, because we'll be like him. We'll be look at someone's like we're looking in a mirror. We're seeing who we are one with. That's the way it is with the thing that you're carrying. You're actually one. It's symbiont. It's a symbiont thing that God has put on the inside of you, right? And some of us treat it as if it's foreign. It's not foreign. It is who we are. It is symbiont. It's united with our very existence because it is the reason why we're here. right? So our best opportunity to first of all discover it, embrace it, and then begin the process of becoming one with it, because that's a process, and no one can tell you how long it takes to do that. No, you just got to get on the road, right? And you get on the road. I often use you get on the road going to Jacksonville. If you're on the right road, just stay on it. You're gonna get there. It might take you 2 hours. It might take you longer. You might have to stop. There may be a detour. There may be an accident. There could be a whole lot of things that will affect the time that you get there. But if you stay on that road, you're gonna get there. And that's what I say about getting on the right track in terms of your purpose. Purpose is not something, this one thing, okay, I'm doing. No, it's about your life, how you are going to spend your time while you are here in this finite existence that we are in on this planet we call Earth. What are we doing with that time? How are we using it? Are we going to be like the keymaker who was locked up in a room, didn't even see people, but he was purposely living inside of a cell? Can you purposely live inside of a cell? Most of us be pulling our hair out. Let me out of here. Let me out of here. Oh, man. Okay. Yeah. I talk about that for a very long time. But thank you, Sarah, for joining and your input. This is awesome. It's awesome. Awesome. So if you have been listening to us tonight and anything that we've talked about has resonated with you in any way, let us know. Okay. We want to know that we are communicating to you in a way that helps. If you know someone who's dealing with or struggling with how they see themselves or even their worth or value, right? Send them this recording. Okay, send them the link. It's on YouTube. Getting Clear with Tim Jones on YouTube. Send them there. And help someone else. Help yourself first of all by making sure that you are aligned with your original design, so that you can be your most powerful self possible. Okay, and realize that it's not about the events that happen in our lives. It's really more about the moments that we spend and how we spend those moments in preparation for the moment that we were created for, the thing that is on us, waiting to come out of us or through us, that will impact and change someone else's life, that will be an answer for someone else, that will be a solution for someone else. Those are the moments that we live for. Those are the moments that we were created for. And so I encourage you to live your life that way. Get on that track. Get on the right track. Get on the track towards your purpose, especially in this season and in this hour that we are in right now, with so much confusion, so much fear, so much doubt, so much uncertainty, right, is in our world. And there's no greater time than now to get clarity about your life and about your future. So we are at the top of the hour. I want to go ahead and sign off here. Again, thank you, Sarah, for joining. We'll have you back again as you get farther along in your process. You're still narrowing that signature greatness down. But boy, you've come a long way in a very short period of time. And I want to say that I'm proud of you for doing that. And it just shows your intensity, and it shows your intentionality. That's the real key word, is about intentionality, because if you're intentional in it, you'll get it done. Doesn't matter how long, you'll get it done, So as always, I want to encourage you to live full so that you can die empty. Make sure that you are finished. When you're finished with this life, make sure you are finished with your assignment. Okay? Let that be your goal in life, is to finish what you came here to do. All right. Thank you again for joining us tonight, and we'll see you next time on Getting Clear with Tim Jones. Good night, everybody.